I'm Yaron Damelin, the host of the podcast, but today we're turning the tables. Today we've got Robert Curtis, the executive producer of the podcast, and he will be doing the interview and interviewing me, trying to get some thoughts and ideas on the table. And so as 2022 closes, here I am, Yaron, and there is Robert. And Robert, how should we do this? How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, and thank you very much for allowing me to sit on the other side of the camera for this one and shed some light on your story and some of the work you're doing. So I'm excited to have the conversation.
Okay, great. It feels like there's a hot mic on this conversation because I'm kind of just going to let things fly. So tell me what you want, and I'm going to try to give you something that I can give from my side.
Amazing. Okay, so look, let's dive in. And I guess the first question for me about the podcast, just before we dive into some of your work, is how have you enjoyed doing the podcast? You've had on some really great guests, and they've all shared, I've had the privilege of listening to all of them. They've all shared insights on big trends, data, finance, business, all connected to everything green tech. And I'd love to hear how you found it. What have you enjoyed from it? And what have you learned?
First of all, it's kind of been a privilege because it's put me in the position of being able to schmooze and meet with some great people, really leaders in the space who are making a difference. And somehow I was able to just have a nice, cordial, fun conversation with these people, and each one coming with such a different angle. I started this podcast focusing the series on Israeli technologies. And a kind of inspiration from Israel. And I haven't been disappointed. There is such a wealth of human resources behind the scene. I was just touching the surface, but I was very privileged to be able to have had an audience with these people. I think you've probably had the opportunity to listen to it more than I have since the podcast, which is probably the nature of the beast. So I'm hoping you've got some more insights for me because I still need to go through and mine out all the nuggets of diamonds, which are hopefully in these recorded texts and recorded messages.
Yeah, look, I think I learned a lot about the importance actually, and I think this is a key mantra of yours, and I know we're going to talk about this in the 10 green commitments, is the importance not just of providing solutions whether through technology and other channels, but that those solutions have to be properly funded, and it needs to be business orientated and profit orientated to make it work. This isn't some sort of constant holy grail of business that, we don't need to make money out of it because we're greening the world. No, it's actually as a result of bringing profit to the table in these stories that we will be able to be more successful in it. And I think I really got that out of all of the messaging. And, I think back to Anne Baer, for example, what an incredible podcast that was with, she's a serious leader in her space, and her insights on, population growth and density of population, and how that impacts and her, I guess she actually gave me more hope than anything else, because I think I feel as a regular Joe Blogs on the street, helplessness around this topic. What can I really do to make an impact here? What's little Robert going to do? Fine, I use less plastic. Fine, I'll take more public transport. Is that really making a difference? And I think actually she gave me hope that actually it does. And if we all do these things and we all have that sense of motivation, there is a positive future. That's what I took anyway. And the Jack Levy episode at the end was phenomenal. I mean, brilliance, absolute brilliance in that conversation.
I want to just get another take because I kind of came out on the other side of the equation because I kind of entered it in the series as kind of more taking an ideological stance. All right, what we can do and how little Yaron and Big Rob can make a difference. And yet I became empowered through the series to once again emphasize the massive change I think we can make, especially using technology, using platforms, using big systems. And that's my kind of turning to the startup community and the entrepreneurial community has filled me with more hope, because great minds and great hearts can, I think, make substantial denting on this process. And I think, yes, we can turn this around. Yes, we can do it. So that's the feeling that I'm leaving with.
I think what's interesting is also your personal motivation. I'd love to dive into that a little bit more, because on some of your personal profiles, on the document of the 10 Green Commitments, you say you're a lover of humanity and our planet. And I want to marry that up, because that first of all, it came through in the podcast, the seriousness with which you take this issue, but the genuine love of people and the planet that you have within your own DNA. Where did this come from? Because, IP consultant, business person, you could go into many other areas to ply your trade. What motivated you to start to focus on this area? Excuse the focus pun.
Yeah, we don't overdo the focus part, but you know what? End of the day, we're just sitting here talking about little actions and about big technologies. At the end of the day, it's going to be on us people, on a couple of billion of us people, because we actually the ones who kind of have inherited this planet. And here we are, we're the ones making impact. Some of us in small ways, some of us in big ways. But if we don't work together, if we get too hard-headed and opinionated about how, and not but about the style of us working together and cooperating, then I think we could just be, in a sense, fighting another human war. Humanity have been so full of great ideals and yet find themselves in so much of a mess because we often turn on each other. We turn our energies and our efforts into creating technologies that can hurt other people, etc. And that is, I've always found, the biggest danger. And the biggest danger is our disunity. So even though we have a major threat and a challenge for all of us to face, some people are calling it the biggest challenge that humanity's faced because it's our own home, which is being our planet, which is being attacked or self-inflicted. But if we turn on each other and we kind of all carry on this tendency to be selfish and arrogant, and only worrying about our little fences and our little homes, then we are seriously putting ourselves in danger as a species and as a planet. And so part of the motivation here is tapping into our genius and our creativity and our innovation, etc., but in the spirit of cooperation. Again, that spirit of cooperation is critically important. I mean, I think today, looking at America, for example, in a sense, tearing itself apart, okay, by these two camps split 50-50, with different narratives on the reality of the world, okay, but tearing each other apart in a sense. That disunity threatens to really disrupt things, because then we can't set agendas and we can't actually agree to the obvious things we can agree and we can have consensus with. And we all want to live in a nicer world. Okay, I think that's so clear. We all want to live in a prettier and nicer world, aesthetically even, and with good air and with decent water, right? Now, surely those are consensus points. They're both Democrats and Republicans, and different streams of Judaism and Christianity and Islam, and those are right wing and left wing can volley up against. So that is in a sense where I'm coming from as a humanist. Yeah, we got to see the challenges of the environment, how it's exposing people across the spectrum, across denominations and wealth brackets to distress. And I think we should learn it. We should be seeing that. We should be understanding that. We should be sensitive to that as humans. So that's why I'm starting off from something which seems to me an obvious beginning to anchor to. That's where my beginning starts.
I guess this year particularly brings what you've said really home, because obviously we've got this war in Europe again that no one really expected. 70-80 years of peace on the continent of Europe, and now that's shattered. And as a result of that specific war, I think the need to come together, by what you're saying, is more prevalent than ever, because I think the green effort has probably been set back as a result of war. We've seen energy prices go up. We've seen the need for energy, independence be on the table as a conversation. And so countries have had to look insularly and say, well, how do we keep our independence from the rest of the world because of these black swan events that come through? Like with Russia, where we got too dependent on them. We should never have done that strategically, but we are where we are, not where we want to be. So I think your message is absolutely true, but it doesn't feel like the world is in that position right now. It feels like we've become more polarized, more separate, more independent, more nationalist. And we know that this is the one issue that won't get solved by doing that.
Great question. Okay. I'm thinking the other side. Okay. That what this year has shown us is that we have to be realistic. Okay. So whereas a year before the war in Europe, we would have been gung-ho, a bit more gung-ho about we all need to do this, we all need to agree to this, and we all care about this long-term future. Suddenly this war came up and reminded us that us humans are kind of basket cases to some degree of thinking long-term, because we become very selfish, and we can easily get back into that mode. So we can't afford to, in a sense, just live in an ideological dream of like, hey, the world's green and cool and back in Woodstock. Okay. I think it's given us a shake up and said to us, we have to be realistic. We need to achieve independence, energy independence, and food independence, and all these different things. But the big thing has been that we've learned is that independence could well become the consequence of us, Dafka, being more on the green revolution, because this green revolution is something which is spread everywhere. It's not just asking the superpowers or the Europeans or whoever the forward-thinking, environmentalist lobbies are. It's at every single corner of the earth. This is a very democratic thing I'm suggesting. Okay, every corner of the earth, every country, every island, okay, has got to somehow get themselves into a zero carbon game. Now, what did that mean? I'm talking more philosophically. We have to get ourselves into a better cycle, a better routine, a more at harmony routine that can sustain itself. Okay. And so that's why, in a sense, this war has shaken everything up, but I don't think it's broken everything up. Okay. And so I still am hanging on to some optimism, a lot of optimism actually, that this will have, in a sense, we'll look back at this war and not believe how much it actually got us into the right path. Okay. Although being that pathway, not being overly naive. Okay. Because we, in a sense, needed to become on the right path in order to be more independent and more self-sustainable. And that's an interesting lesson that's going to come from 2022.
Very interesting answer. And I always love your hope and optimism and energy. I personally like tapping into that. So we appreciate you for that, Yaron. I think coming back to what I was mentioning at the beginning about profit and business being a driver and why IP is important, I'd just like to get your IP hat on for a second and talk about these technologies that are coming out: green tech, agri-tech, food tech, energy tech, whatever is the umbrella for all of those. I think someone needs to come up with an all-encompassing name for that. There is this, I guess, friction point that I go and create something that is revolutionary. I want to make a profit. It's a business. I want to protect what I've built. But at the same time, getting this into more hands might be the solution that really needs to take place for it to have the impact. But getting it into more hands means opening it up, open source, sharing. Where is the fault line in protection versus, I guess, openness to allowing impact to happen from an IP perspective with that hat on?
Okay, so putting another hat on. Okay. You know what? I've been in the IP game for just over 20 years now.
Wow.
Right. And And there've been lots of ups and downs. And I've read many sides to the same story, anti-IP and pro-IP and everything in between. But I still retain fundamentally supportive of the regime, because I see this whole IP regime as an enabler, okay, of technology expansion and implementation globally, okay, and it's a tool which is aimed and designed to do that, exactly that. It doesn't always succeed, okay, and we've seen many examples of IP having, in a sense, frozen technological growth and blocked technological growth. So there will be outliers and there will be abusers of every system. But the fundamentals of the IP regime are that we are trying to get people to invent like crazy, expose those inventions in a crazy kind of way, and thereby enable an economy to go around them. Now, in order to do that effectively, people need to be motivated. They need to get rewarded for the fruits of their innovation, especially considering that innovation usually means it also needs lots of investment. So I think it's fair. And there is a period of unfairness, so to speak, where there's a monopoly power, if you get your patent, for example. But the clear and unadulterated aim of that is that you want to share this technology with the community in order to get it implemented. And in order to, in a sense, I often compare IP or patents in particular as kind of like a digital, a technology currency of sorts, right? So it's not that that's everything. And if you look at most currencies, they're kind of fake implementations of some item which embody wealth. Okay, they aren't wealth itself, they're a symbol of wealth. And so too in the IP story here. The patent isn't wealth, the patent isn't intrinsically worth everything, but it kind of distills the technology which you've come up with in order to put it into some format that you can kind of calculate, put it on the table, make it into a little tradable asset of sorts, sell it to somebody, give it to somebody, license it to somebody. And that's the ultimate aim of the system. So, and once again, we can be very flexible. I look at the, at the COVID vaccines, okay? So on the one hand, we see that there was an unparalleled, unbelievable innovation spree that came after COVID in order to get the vaccine as fast as possible. We saw unbelievable innovation. We then saw an unbelievable battle of morality and ethics of, whoa, this isn't fair. So all the rich guys get the vaccines first, right? Now, I'm not even going to that debate. It's such a big rabbit hole to go down. But there were some countries, I think in particular India and South Africa, that turned around and said, we're not going this far supporting the IP regime. We're ducking it, right? We're scrapping the IP. At the end of the day, I understand a settlement was kind of worked out, right? That, okay, we'll start producing certain parts in those countries, we'll start empowering, we'll start doing. Of course, there's going to be a lot of dirt on the road. But the fact that those big companies were inspired to invest so much to come up with a solution so fast is due to the fact that they could have IP and benefit from it. So I really think in the big picture, that is going to benefit more people faster, okay? So anyway, all I'm saying, it's a long story, but the innovation that I'm seeing around at the moment, which I think is going to be the solution to our problems, it's behavior plus innovation. The innovation's massive, okay? I'm looking for, at the moment, example, one of the things we didn't talk about much is fusion, okay? Fusion technologies. And there've recently been some breakthroughs in fusion, which have kind of tipped the scales. Now, we know fusion's going to happen. We don't know if it's going to be 10, 20, 30, 40 years till it's commercially viable. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a game changer. And there are many others. But we need a fantastic amount of investment to make that happen and to make it happen faster. So those who investing, those who are putting in big money into that, obviously need the motivation. Otherwise, they'll simply say, oh, well, why should I invest if I'm not going to get anything from that investment? So anyway, I'm trying to push for a regime that works, a regime that's effective, a regime that pushes green tech into amazing ways forward, that spreads it all over the world. But obviously, getting back to the 10 green commitments almost, the ways are important. The way it's done is important. And the way we can try and encourage buy-in and chip in from all over the place, the value system that's leading to it is also important.
Really impressive answer. A lot to unpack in there. That's probably for another time. But I think this is a nice segue, because you've mentioned it, to talk about the 10 green commitments. Obviously derived from, the universality of understanding of the 10 commandments given to the Jewish people at Mount Sinai. So I'd love to dive into this, because I think it's just a beautiful and original idea. For anyone who hasn't read your manifesto yet, I urge them to go to your LinkedIn profile and do that in the featured section, because I think this is a very unique and innovative way of looking at the challenge that we have ahead of us, and coming back to that helplessness to motivation that I mentioned personally. So I think, first of all, why did you do this? What motivated you to create the 10 green commitments? And I think a sub question on that is, why focus just on religious communities within that? What is there something inherently positive or negative around the way that religious communities deal with this topic?
Wow. It's Rob, I'm seeing it in this way, that, religion is a force. Okay. You may love it, you may hate it, you may believe in it, and you may not believe in it, but it's a force. It's a force of nature. It's been around for a long time, and it's still around. And all the naysayers who thought that religion would disappear with industrialization and all the other processes that have happened since then, it hasn't. And it's got a grab on many, many billions of people in this world. And so think about it this way, that, why can't the religious people in this world, who are probably a majority of the people in the world, kind of enlighten and embolden themselves to take on a certain religious value with association with the world? Okay, we live on one planet, whatever religion you come from, and surely we could once again get to a consensus point that we all want this planet to be a nicer place. And in a sense, maybe it's a bit more of a democratic vision, but like the more that this world can actually just facilitate a decent living standard and resources that we can use in the most beautiful of ways, surely we'll all be happier. We'll all be more empowered and inspired, and we can live our religions the way we want to some degree, or we could live our lives the way we want to a large degree, if we aren't all blowing each other up. Okay, so I'm saying that there's a religious power and a passion which we shouldn't just kind of write off and ignore and say, oh, that's for the crazies, because there are a lot of people who are inspired by the religion. But I start my article off by talking about the fact that that inspiration, that power, that passion can often lead to the direction of inspiration and beauty, or to war and death and destruction, which we've seen so often. So I'm trying to tap into the passion, into the power, okay, of humans and what drives us, and say, why can't we use that passion and that power to do good stuff? Okay, to do stuff which would be good for all of us. And so when I'm tapping into the 10 Commandments, right, and yeah, me being Jewish and a proud Jew and living in Israel, where we celebrate this 10 Commandments as a foundation of our culture, as many of the people in the world do actually, the 10 Commandments have got a certain mystique and a moral value and a power. And it's been like that for thousands of years, where they hold our attention. But if we want to use this moment to tap into our energies of co-religionists and peoples all over the world, then I'm thinking the 10 Commandments is a great starting point. I mean, because it's of its power. But once again, I actually mentioned that the 10 Commandments actually isn't the beginning. The 10 Commandments was preceded by the seven commandments of Noah, okay, which was given after the flood, okay, which is a whole lot of stuff we can talk about there as well. And that also wasn't the beginning, because that was preceded by the Garden of Eden picture, okay, where Adam and Eve were there, and they were given a few fundamental human commandments, okay, two of which were to conquer the world and to protect the world. And so that's our fundamental conflict as humans, I think, where we want to, on the one hand, conquer the world and be creative and take on and do things and make money and make things work for us and create robots and do whatever we can do um, in the most creative and brilliant way. On the other hand, we got this deep kind of humanity of we are humans and there are people around us. We got to be sensitive. And there's plants and there's greenery and there's trees and there's water and there's air. And we've got to be sensitive and we've got to look after it. It's our only world. There may be Elon Musk's trying to settle on Mars. Me personally, I'm not ready for that. It sounds like a terrible lifestyle. But in terms of this world, it's here and we've got to look after it. So I'm wanting to tap into that. The Ten Commandments as being the kind of latest version of a package of power, which is supposed to support us humans as we go ahead and live our lives. But now let's up the ante. Okay, it's one thing to have commandments, especially when we're talking universally here. Not everyone taps into them in the equal way. But yes, I think us humans need a jolt up our spines of saying you need to take on your commitments. You need to be committed. You need to take action. You need to sign on the bottom line and say, yes, I will take action to make this planet nicer and better and more homely again and not destroy it. And those are where we lead from the 10 commandments to the 10 green commitments, because those are commitments that I think we all need to take on. So that's where it came from.
I think before you answer the next part, I think what's interesting to me around the commitments part for religious communities, as you write it, is that there's probably it's like you say, it's this dichotomy of it's one of the most amazing groupings of people and communities around the world who are motivated by a sense of the power of doing good, the impact of doing things together. But yet at the same time, I think, I love your thoughts on this, there is also, and that's why I think this is a timely message from you, that religious communities often might have a sense of, well, we have this higher faith, whatever it might be that we believe in, that this higher power, God, is going to be okay in the end. There's a faith that no matter what we do, it will play out as it's meant to. And there's that sense of just belief in the process of time and what comes next. So I think there is that friction point, and that's why what you're doing, I think, goes right to the heart of that friction point and says, no, like you said, in the Garden of Eden, we are co-creators of this world. We are guardians. Yes, we're in charge, but not to plunder it, to create the environment around it that protects what has been created.
Yeah, I mean, Robert, those are beautiful words. And I don't know if I was saying them or not, but you said them really nicely. Okay. Correct. We're supposedly guardians and we're partners in this creation. And that's why I'm trying to tap into that power and say, it's not good enough for these religious people all over the world to think that they're so special and they're so correct and they're doing all the right stuff, okay? Because they could be doing more, and they could be doing more with others to enhance the power of this thing. See, one thing religions have got, which often non-religions don't possess as well, is the power of community. Okay, because when you take one passionate person and you put them together with another 10 or another 100 or another 1,000, you can do unbelievable things. And then when you can pack those communities together and say, hey, there are other communities like us and different from us, and we can also work together, we're once again compounding and multiplying the power that we can do things through. So that's why I think there is a power. The reason I started tapping into this first version into religious communities was, on the one hand, that's the main reason in a sense, because communities are where power lies and where there's this multiplicity of personalities and skill sets which can work together. And then combining with different communities and across spectrums is important. I mean, I look at our Jewish world, right? And with a small little nation, really, what are we, 15, 16 million people today? We're a small community by all means, with a long history. But even inside our own little world, we've got all these divisions and all these denominations, and this one doesn't speak to that one, and this one doesn't want to speak to that one. And that holds us back from achieving great things. Even in this green sector, if we would also agree to do certain toe the line in certain, commandments. We've got this idea of mitzvot, or commandments, right? And these different denominations in the Jewish world have got a different approach to commandments. But I think we can all come to a consensus point and say, hey, on this level, our planet and God and the creator of the planet would surely be happier, okay, when the planet's in a better state. So we can do this. And even if you're different from me in your other belief systems, we can come to a consensus and work together. So once again, tapping into the power of communities to work across segments and across sections to work the magic together. Okay. By the way, another factor that I just started the community story was because, I actually launched this publication prior to COP27, right, in Sinai in Egypt. We were going to go there to do a launching event of Sinai 2, of kind of like a redoing of the 10 Commandments. And I wanted to prepare for that, a kind of green commitment story. But also the idea there was that it was across denominations. It wasn't just the Jewish people going there to reenact the 10 Commandments. It was from across the different religions and spectrums who were going there to say, we can do this together. Okay, there's common ground. And in the common ground, there's lots of power.
But I think that's mind-blowing, first of all, genuinely. And I think what your manifesto is, what I'm calling it, it's a first draft manifesto, is perhaps the seedlings of what is needed to create maybe the greatest interfaith project of our time. That this is something that we can all agree on. In your document, you obviously talk about tikkun olam. Obviously, in Hebrew, this is in Hebrew, but it's this concept of being able to go out and fix the world, to better the world. And I think we find that in all religions, they all have that mantra within it to go and do that. So I think, however you want to use it and whatever language you want to deploy, this is an interfaith project, possibly of the greatest nature we've ever seen.
Well, yeah, the way you put it is big. I do hope that it could be grown and developed and made more relevant to many more people. It's actually not going to be the end point in terms of the communities. I anticipate doing several versions because I think this platform could be really, could be transformational. And it can tap into energies from people across spectrums and also the beyond communities. But I do think that, as I said at the beginning or previously, the religious spirit in humans still exists. It's still thriving. Okay, and part of that is, what I quote in the essay is this understanding, going back to the stories of creation, of Genesis. Okay, of who us humans are. What is our position in this world? What are we here to do? Right? Now, I feel we're extremely privileged to be living in a generation where we haven't exactly solved all the world's problems, but we're living in free societies that enable us and empower us to think and debate and discuss and research. And that's fantastic. It's amazing, right? But that fundamental challenge of humanity, of why we're here, of these, whether they're literal or not literal characters of Adam and Eve who put on the planet and they turn around one day and they say, okay, fantastic place. What are we supposed to do here? Right? Now, liberally speaking, find yourself something to do. That's great, full of opportunity. Although they may have been a bit intimidated by that because they didn't have any skills yet. Right? They were skillless, I'm assuming. They hadn't developed much as humans. But they had to start something off, which would be, sorry, I just actually was saying hello to a mosquito going past me. Adam and Eve were skillless and they had to learn how to tame a crazy world or work with that crazy world. And in that challenge of conquer versus look after, I think it was something of the greatest concern. It still is. It's a fault line in us, okay, which we can't tame because it's us. That's our human nature. It's our crazy nature. Right? On the one hand, we want to rip out and do and create and conquer every vista and conquer space and conquer the oceans and conquer the skies and everything else. And there's beauty in that. I mean, I know, like, I often tap into the NASA pictures now of the web, and looking into these unbelievable discoveries and pictures of the greater out frontiers. Wow, humans are incredible. Okay, and we're just at the beginning. Technology is brilliantly improving, but we also see that human nature often repeats itself, and comes down to a big low, and can often cause such I mean, destruction, right? But that's like almost the metaphor of now we've been discussing in this period as well of nuclear energy. Okay, same idea. So nuclear came up, fantastic, amazing energy. Thank you, Einstein. Unfortunately, the consequence of Einstein were Hiroshima and Nagasaki as well. Now, does that mean Einstein was wrong? Well, for the people of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and all the others who've suffered from nuclear accidents, it's tragic. On the other hand, the energy possibilities and the positivity that can come from this technology is unbelievable. And now nuclear is having a major resurgence, because we can turn around and look and say, well, of course, we don't want these nuclear power stations all to become nuclear bombs, but they've actually got the highest and the best record of safety than every energy source that I'm aware of, right? They've got the highest. If you look at the numbers of casualties and deaths related to energy production and distribution, nuclear is off the charts better than all the others. Okay, now you need to know how to look after that. Okay, but that is, in a sense, the metaphor for where we are. We've got endless power, but we've got to then have massive responsibility. And that's where the value and the efficiency have to work together. So it's kind of part of the same tikkun olam. How do we do tikkun olam? Well, not just by being nice guys, by being smart guys and nice guys, I think, at the same time. And if we can all be smart and nice, and be smart and nice with each other, then suddenly we can tap into the power of great communities and many people to really, really make an impact.
So I think what I'm taking here is that, we're called on by God or a higher power to be a co-creator in this world. To some extent, we've become a bad partner, and in other ways, we're a good partner. There is good and bad in every situation. It's the free choice of how we then move forward to harness the incredible powers that we have. I think also what you're saying, and I concur with this, is that although we are faced with major challenges, for most of the world, and I know this isn't true for everywhere, we probably live in the greatest time in history. We have more opportunity, better health, life expectancy, and awareness and understanding and education of ourselves and the world in which we live in. So all the potential is there. The IP is there. And now we need to make the actual impact. Would you concur?
Wow, that's a better sell than I ever even thought of. That's a power, Rob. Thank you. I'm going to put that into my new website materials.
Invoices in the post.
In a sense, I think maybe the original IP is really in our DNA. It's that knowledge base. It's that information that's programmed into our psyches, into our beings, right? And we forget about that at our peril. So I am trying to jerk us all into a kind of reminding us of saying, we come from an amazing past. We're going to an amazing future, but it could go both ways. It could be amazingly terrible, amazingly beautiful. But I'm in that track of people that are optimists and say we should build an amazing future, and we can build an amazing future. Once again, our biggest hindrance and obstacle would probably be that we start killing each other to get there. There's a famous story, one of our Jewish Talmudic tractates, that speaks about a terrible moment, okay, where the priests, okay, they're there to be the holy guys and doing all the amazing service in the temple. They are the representatives of holiness in the Jewish people. And they are so passionate about doing their holiness that this one priest is running up a ramp to go bring the sacrifice. And another priest is running up a ramp to get there first. They're having a race. And unfortunately, the one who's losing turns out, pulls out a knife and stabs the other one. That's how seriously they took their race in the worst of ways. It gets worse. Then the father of the priest who was just killed sees this all happening. He doesn't run towards his son to save his life. He takes he runs and he says to everyone, leave the knife, because the knife is going to be impure because it killed somebody, instead of saving his son's life. That's an example where extremism went on steroids, right? And these holy people and this holy motivation turned on itself and caused the biggest desecration. So we've got countless examples, and us in the Jewish people, we've got countless examples on our own of endless nations who try to be so holy that they've destroyed us to try to be more holy. And so I'm begging all of us, right? Let's get perspective. Let's regain our humanity, our approach to looking at others who are suffering in such different situations, and try and make our plight better, to make it better for all of us. And then we can spread the love in the most fair and democratic and beautiful way all over the place. But let's not forget that. We can't forget that. Our disunity, our working at odds with each other is going to be our biggest downfall. And our working together with each other could be our biggest potential to really change things.
Powerful. Now, before I ask you to actually recite the 10 commitments and share them with the audience, I want to just go local. We're in Israel, both of us. And obviously the focus of the podcast has been talking about innovative Israeli green tech, and you've had on some of the leaders in those spaces. We're recording this today on the, as you said, 29th of December. There's actually a new government being sworn in today as well. What would you call on the government to do when it comes to Israel's green credentials? Yes, we're an incredible source of innovation, technology, and we're driving the world way beyond our weight in that, as we've heard throughout the podcast. The impact of Israel on this particular topic is just, disproportionate and extraordinary. But what would you say to Israel's government and its public institutions to get serious about this particular topic? Because alongside all of that technology coming out, I think our green credentials are not the greatest here when it comes to how we actually live and work and play within our own land.
Okay, that is a challenging question, Rob, and it's very broad scale, because
it's another episode all in its own right.
Exactly. Each category could be gone into another episode. I'll just try and state a few principles. Okay. One principle I would say would be, we have an expression in our sources. It's from King David in his Psalms, and it says "Sumera v'aseh tov." Okay, sumera means stay away from bad, and aseh tov is do good. And so the fundamental would be, whatever's going well, keep it going well and do it better. Whatever's doing badly, whatever's going on the wrong track, stop it in its tracks. Okay. So, for example, we're saying that actually today, talking about news, they opened up the new water project in the Kinneret, which they're now pumping desalinated water from the sea into the Kinneret to keep the Kinneret high enough to be able to have its profound effects of both, supporting the environment, also giving water to Jordan, etc. That's an incredible feat. So our water sector has done tremendously. From living in a desert, we've become, in a sense, we're one of the few surplus water countries in the world at the moment. Okay, so that's a good thing, right? We're doing some things pretty well, and let's keep them doing well. There's some things that we're doing really badly, okay, and we need to fix them up. There are lots of examples. I don't think I even want to go into them because I'll start me going crazy. Okay, but there are a lot of one thing I would say is that I'm very free markety about this. Let the market make a difference. This gets back to the technology side. Okay, that when we, for example, have got a monopoly on electricity production in this country, okay, the electric company still own all the networks, all the electric networks. And we're not allowed to, in a sense, store and use electricity. That is backwards. That is ridiculous. Okay. The day that that gets folded, which I believe is coming quite soon, but I want to see it happen very soon, then the economy, or the carbon creation economy for individuals and companies and neighborhoods will kick in with mini grids and all other things. So that's an example where we have to shed inefficiencies because they hold us back. Okay. Let the people who are innovative and good willing jump in and start doing their magic. When you hold them back from doing their magic, then everything just takes too long. Okay. And one thing I fight against, and this is something which it actually comes into the 10 commitments at some level, but it's another project I'm working on, is about anti-corruption. Okay. That we've got to separate corruption out of the governmental structures entirely. And when we talk about massive change like green transformation, electricity systems and infrastructure, I want to make sure, right? And I want to set the systems up if I need to, if they don't exist as they are, to make sure that that goes efficiently without corruption and it's without people pocketing money on the side or anything else, because that is what slows things down. Corruption kills, okay? Thank God we're living in a place where it's pretty good. It's pretty good. We don't have bribery of police and we don't have anything. I don't see these things happening in any substantial way. Okay. We've got systems which work fundamentally and they could work better. Okay. But we want to make sure that the right energies are being fed into the right systems and that there is very little hindrance and obstacles in the way to getting it done. And if there is corruption, I want to weed that out, because taking that corruption away will make sure that things will happen much more efficiently. So we want to move. We want to move. One last point on this question: Israel is such a tiny market. It's such a tiny land. It's such a tiny area. Yet we've often shown that, as you said, we punch above our weight. But we've often shown that we could be a great beta testing site. That we've got everything in this little country, from forests to mountains to flats to water to deserts to everything else. And we can and should keep on being a great beta testing site, but then taking this technology outwards. If our technology is one of our skills, part of the IP regime is that it's not all about being here. It's about taking it there as fast as possible, taking it out, sharing it with the world. And in that way, continuing to punch above our weight and make a difference, make an impact. I want to make an impact, me personally, and us as a whole. So let's go for it.
Very comprehensive answer, Yaron. So as we wrap up, I do want you to be able to recite these 10 commitments to the audience and to go through them in a sort of quick fire round so that everybody can digest them and then come in and read and learn and connect with you for more. So it's one of those things that maybe you should eventually have a song or a mantra, like a tune behind it. But until you do, if you're okay, I'd love you to take us through those as we wrap up the episode.
Okay, that is a bit of a difficult request because I can recite them, maybe I will, but it's they kind of are the fulfillment of so much background thought. And also basing on the 10 Commandments, inspiration from the 10 Commandments, there's so much kind of historical depth inside of these things. They're not just 10 loose statements. When considering what model to present these value statements, I was caught up for a long time, many, many months of thinking which prism to shine them through. So all I'm saying, I can give them over now in some kind of superficial way. But I do want to go forward in the future to open these up, to study them, to research them further, and to break them down into applicable packages. So just realize that it's going to be very superficial.
Absolutely, but I think it's a teaser for everybody to come.
Exactly, it's
more.
Just a teaser.
Even with the 10 Commandments, there's so much more behind each one of them that once you start learning, there's depth and a wide range of other information. But I think it'd be nice for everyone to just understand the thought process there, to see how it's impacted and with the output.
Okay, so I'll just dive into this kind of superficial kind of display of these things. In a sense, number one, we can start with, okay, the first commandment is to learn and teach about these issues. This is the real summary version. According to that comes a commitment to question, learn, and teach about global environmental challenges. Unless you're starting to ask questions, unless you're open to answers, unless you're probably wanting to learn and teach, it's not going to impact on the people the way it should. Okay. Number two, research and discover. Okay. You need to research and discover ethical and technical solutions to heal the world. It's not good enough just to have good intention. Okay. We need to put money into research. We need to discover solutions. Okay. Part of that is R&D, so to speak, in this field, and that needs investment. Number three, protect the earth. It's almost like that soumera, which I said before. There are things that we are doing currently that are damaging the planet, okay, that are causing danger every single day, causing people to die of bad air and bad water and other things like that. And that we simply got to actually stop. Stop, okay? Now, I know it's not simple, and we saw in the case of Russia, we try to stop energy and imports from Russia into Europe. It's not so simple, but there are things that we can stop, we should stop. And sometimes you just actually need to make those kind of almost legal changes that a country say, okay, no more at this date, okay, or we're limiting travel in the city in this type of vehicle. Things happen. Number four, okay. Driving global sustainability. Adopting the commitment over here must be to adopt sustainable lifestyle practices, okay? Now, this could be on the one hand individual, like as you're saying, have better methods in my family of how to deal with waste and how to use things more sustainably. But obviously, we can drive them on a global level as well, and that needs best practices. Okay, I remember examples over here in Israel where we kind of were trying to recycle things, but then we learned out that all the recycling wasn't being processed properly. So we're actually getting more trucks to come into our cities to take away the non-compliant recycling stuff. It caused more damage. So we have to be realistic. Okay. Number five, democratize the Earth's resources. Okay, like really on a value level, right? Can't we provide clean air and drinkable water and smart power to humans at this time of our existence, where there's so much technology and resources to do this with? Come on, we can do that. Number six, act with passion. Okay, proactive greening, committing to proactive greening and beautification programs. It's not all about stopping the damage. It's about doing good. We want to live with more trees and more water around us. All of us love that. It's good for our souls. Okay. We can do that. We can lead water now anyway. We just thought out. We can lead water from the sea to the Kinneret. Okay. We can do these things. We've got to just put our heads together and we've got to do them with passion. 7 is promote diversity. Okay. We got to commit to promote biodiversity and prevent extinction. It's a whole long story, this, but we know that diversity can have tremendous benefit when you're using, the energies from different systems and you're putting them together. To lose that would be terrible. Would be unforgivable. And we know that there's so much potential in this biodiversity. We just need to kind of look after it well enough to understand it. Fight for eco-justice. We have to commit to fight for eco-justice to limit environmental destruction. Justice is a big topic. Okay, it's a big topic because there's so many. Actually, COP27 was all about this theme of rich world and poor world and different phases and stages and timings. How do we enforce justice? But let's just say it in this way, in the crude bottom line, where there is bad stuff happening, there's damage happening, we can take action because we have world bodies that can take action. We should be taking action, even when there's little internal battles going on. Eco-terrorism is something which is not acceptable. We're seeing it right now in Russia. There's eco-terrorism happening every day. They are bombing energy sources to try and freeze the Ukrainians. I mean, wow. Okay, it's so clear to everybody that should not be happening. Okay, and that there should be a price to pay for it beyond just not happening. Okay, share technology, number 9. Okay, it sounds like something simple, but actually sharing the technology. This actually gets to IP, by the way, because sharing effective green technology and best sustainability practices. Now, when we've shown in certain areas, or let's take the Scandinavian countries who are way ahead of the curve, they've already developed best practices that we haven't started trying yet. Okay, part of IP know-how is teaching the world or showing the world or licensing to the world these better means of having better sustainability practices. So there's such potential if we share. Okay. And number 10 is in its own category, because even though the previous 9 were all about thought and speech and action, number 10 is a different category called unity. We need to cooperate to make an impact. We need to commit to respectful international energy collaboration. Okay, that means that we are one human family. We may have different beliefs and different countries and different borders and different languages and different economies and different currencies, but we're one human family. And if we can commit to cooperate with each other, okay, to really use our skills, to really use the best of ourselves with each other, that would be beautiful in the eyes of humanity, in the eyes of God, in the eyes of every higher power you can imagine. That would be a beautiful thing. That would make this world a lighter place. So there's a lot of work cut out for us.
Yaron, that wasn't superficial. I think that's an incredible intro for people, an entree, shall we say, to come and learn more and connect with you and go deeper on each one of those 10 commitments. I know for me, this journey of launching Green Focus with you and this first season has been an education. You know, I get the privilege of listening in to you and other top leaders in this space and getting that benefit. So for me personally, I've enjoyed season 1. And I think you've made a huge impact by bringing this conversation to the world. And I think these 10 commitments are an incredible manifesto, and I really wish you serious success in deploying this and making this a wider reality for organizations, people, families, communities. So before I pass the mic back to you as we wrap up the episode, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for allowing me to be the guest host today. As ever, insightful, and I really appreciate you sharing.
Robert, thank you. It's been tremendous working with you, and the spirit and the willingness to learn and to ask and to support has been tremendous. It's been encouraging, it's been inspiring, and it's been a pleasure. So I look forward to working with you on other matters and other projects, and in particular, just my wishes are out there for all of us to in our lifetimes, see the benefits of this positive energy that we're putting in today. Okay, I think it was in the middle of this series that we were putting out, had my first grandchild. It's incredible. I can't believe it's happened actually. And I look at this innocent little dude and think to myself, well, let's at least try our hardest to give these guys a future. Okay. And a future which is beautiful, not just one to survive, but one to thrive.